on a sunny and cold Thursday afternoon. Welcome on in. It's an Animal House edition of the Bullpen right here, brought to you by Bet Rivers, along with Dustin Fox. I'm Adam the Bull, and a lot to get to today. The football season may be over, but now the football offseason is about to begin. Free agency just, 4 weeks away? 4 weeks and change. The draft 2 months and change away. So the games may be over, Dustin, but there's still a lot of football to talk about right now.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And because the Browns are now in a position where they have tried to avoid for the last, 3-4 years, we're right back in it again, which makes this time after the Super Bowl the most important time for the Browns, an exciting time to talk about this team because it is sort of their Super Bowl. They've got the number 2 pick in the draft. Free agency you talked about is coming up here, very, very quickly. And the team now all of a sudden has a million holes and a lot of question marks. And so the next several weeks and months are going to determine really what we're going to be talking about in the fall, and really the expectations where they go will be determined by how this roster sort of shakes out in the next several months.
And if you have a question for us during the next 28 minutes or so, put it in the YouTube chat. We'll get to as many questions as we can a little bit later on anything about the Browns. Of course, if you have a question about the Guardians or the Cavs or the Buckeyes or anything else relating to the Bull and Fox show or Cleveland sports or whatever, food, entertainment, whatever you want to get into, we can get into it here. So a lot to get to today. We will do a little bit on the Cavaliers. The Guardians reporting to spring training, pitchers and catchers report today, and Jose Ramirez is there apparently on the first day when he's not even due to report, I don't think, till this weekend. So that's always good. We know he's a team guy as much as any player. I think real quick about the Guardians before we get to the Browns here in a minute. When you look at it, Jose Ramirez, yesterday on UCSS, I was talking about it's crazy to me how players never take less money or almost never take less money to stay in a place. Jose Ramirez probably took less money to stay in a place more than any player I could ever think of in sports.
It's rather crazy to think about, because there's no reason he should be here.
No, we're very lucky.
Yeah, I mean, really lucky because, we all get to take advantage of the fact that we get to keep a generational talent, a Hall of Famer, any superlative you want to put on this guy.
Yeah.
Put it like times 10 because we. What player has really put his bank account on the line for us in Cleveland? Ever?
Nobody. I mean, he left, I would say, minimum $100 million on the table. $100 million. No player. I don't think any player in the history of sports has ever done that.
There's not a person listening to this show right now or watching this show right now that would leave $1,000 on the table for anybody or anything.
Yeah, it's probably true.
I'm being a little sarcastic, but you get the point. I mean, $100 million the guy put left on the table because he, for whatever reason, loves Cleveland, loves the Guardians, and likes being here.
He's happy. A lot. So that's good.
Yeah.
Comfortable. All right. Well, we'll do more Guardians as the season gets going, and we'll get to the Cavs later. But let's talk about the Cleveland Browns here. In fact, we'll start with a question from Jarrett. Says, do you find it odd how much people hate the Chiefs? They act like their team won the Super Bowl, even though the Eagles aren't their team. Yeah, this has become a thing, right? It was funny because and I'm someone who now hates the Chiefs. I'm anti-Chiefs. Mm-hmm. But when Mahomes and the Chiefs first started getting really good, and they were good with Alex Smith, but not obviously this level of good, I felt like a lot of people were rooting for them, myself included, in the Super Bowl because they were playing, or the AFC Championship game, because they were trying to end the Patriot dynasty, if you will, and Tom Brady. And now the shoe's on the other foot. They've had a dynasty now for a while. But I don't know that everybody was going crazy for the Eagles, because it's not like they're, if you're not an Eagles fan, if they had played the Lions in the Super Bowl or even the Commanders, I think there would have been even more anti-Chiefs, because those teams, Washington hasn't won in forever and Lions have never won. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's some people in the media are like, why do people get mad at the Chiefs? Why don't they like the Chiefs? Why don't they want to appreciate greatness? Well, if it's your team, if it's not your team that's great, it's not exciting. I get some media members who maybe have, disconnected themselves from their fandom, don't care about such things, but fans do. I'm not. I mean, if you want to root for the greatness of the Chiefs, that's fine by me. I'm not going to tell you not to, but I don't want the Chiefs to keep winning Super Bowls. I want my team to win Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel like
I want my team to win, or I want someone else that's new. Like that's
right.
it's fun to see greatness, I guess, from time to time. But it also stinks when you see a team that went from being this lowly organization to then all of a sudden, like in several years, becoming very cocky and very arrogant. And then you got bandwagon fans, like all that stuff. And by the way, that would happen to the Browns too.
Any
if the
fan
Browns
base.
won for 5 years, like people would eventually be sick of talking about the Browns and seeing the Browns win. And Browns players would be cocky. And then there would be cocky bandwagon fans.
That's right.
Wearing jerseys of good players from the team. It's like, so it is what it is. It's part of the deal about being a fan. And I'm happy the Eagles won. I don't want to see the Eagles win next year.
No.
It's nice to see somebody new, get a little relatively new. They won in 17, but you know what I'm saying? Like I'm done with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm done.
For now.
It doesn't mean you don't respect how good nobody's, outside of Rob Parker saying the crazy thing that Andy Reid should step down. Like, I have a lot of respect for, and not that he cares, but I have a lot of respect for Andy Reid. I think he's the best coach in football. I think despite how awful the game was, I still think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. We all love Travis Kelce, but it's enough. They've had their time. I'm sick of them winning. Because, as you said, their fans have gotten cocky, just like our fans would, or Washington, or every fan base when their team wins a lot. Well, just look at it. Even here, where you've outside of one Cavs championship, a Cleveland team hasn't won in over 60 years. And yet, a lot of the fans in this area, when it comes to Ohio State football, very cocky.
Yep.
So that's it. Yeah. When you win a lot, you get cocky, no matter what city it is. Although I heard an interesting thing. I was listening to MLB radio for a few minutes on my drive over here, and there was a beat reporter for the Angels, and he said, in his opinion, he's been covering the team a long time, that 70% of their fan base just goes to games just to have something to do that night. That only 30% of their fan base really cares about, like, is diehard and wins and losses, which is crazy. And I understand there are markets like that. I think Miami's like that, or at least they have the reputation for being that. I feel like in Cleveland, it's like 98% are diehards.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, you'll 100%. Meet a couple people here and there that are casual fans, especially you have the Browns, but like
for sure,
most people that I know that like sports here are diehard, with very few exceptions. Now, specifically to the Browns, obviously we've been talking on the podcast, we've been talking on UCSS, all kinds of talk about what the Browns are going to do with the second pick in the draft, and also what they're going to do at quarterback. That may be the same thing, but we saw that that rumors about Trevor Lawrence, not surprisingly, were shot down. That there's apparently no validity of it, but it just brings up the point that Browns fans right now, and I get it, everybody's like, we're like a dog that wants to play with its human. Any bit of news about a quarterback, it's like, really? Could it be that guy? Yeah. Could it be that guy? Like, we're out of control right now, and it makes sense, and it's understandable, because for the most part, there hasn't been a good quarterback for 30 years. But how are you feeling right now, with obviously so long to go, about what you end up thinking is going to happen? I know it's just a guess, but where are you right now?
Like with the rookies and with the top of the draft.
Like, what do you think?
I mean, we talk about everything from Trevor Lawrence to, draft picks. So there's a lot of things. If we're talking strictly about the rookies, how am I feeling about those rookies? I don't know if I feel any better now than I did at the end of the season. I don't know if I'll feel any better when the draft comes as opposed to how I feel right now. Like it's such a crapshoot with the quarterbacks that are rookies coming in. And when you've got all these experts, so-called experts, guys that study it more than you and I, say that they're not elite, that it does make you have pause, right? About
Yep,
these players and their ability to
sure.
come into a team. And then I add on top of the fact that are the Browns an organization that can facilitate a young quarterback along the way, turning into a great quarterback? We talked about that today on our show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'd probably bet against it right now. Do they have the infrastructure to put a young quarterback in the building and help him develop into what Jaden Daniels did? Now, it's again, Jaden Daniels could have a bad year next year, but he had a great rookie year, and looks like he's going to be a hell of a pro. So, will that happen in Cleveland? I mean, it's probably unlikely, honestly.
Yeah.
But the idea is there's hope, and when there's hope, there you don't know what's going to happen because the Browns could fall into something by happenstance, that they get lucky, that they find the right quarterback in this draft and that guy turns out to be just so good and so transcendent that it doesn't matter how bad the Browns try to f it up. He doesn't. He's too good. And that's really my thought process as of now.
Right.
Am I optimistic? Am I excited? Am I hopeful? Kind of none of those. Kind of like wait and see. It's like prove it to me that you can win games and that Stefanski can coach up a quarterback. Those are all things that have been yet to be determined.
I feel like we've seen him coach up quarterbacks at times. I thought Jacoby Brissett played maybe his best football with Kevin Stefanski. Joe Flacco played his best football since being benched for Lamar Jackson. What was that, in 18, 19, late 18, I think? Wasn't it
It
late?
was
Yeah, late in 18, because that was the
18.
rookie year. Yeah. So, I mean, Joe Flacco's been pretty terrible since then, and he played his best football here. I know he threw a lot of picks, but he played his best football here. And so I think he's done a decent job with quarterbacks who are not really starters anymore, or in Brissett's case, never really was a starter. But I think it's a fair question to ask. I mean, obviously Baker had a very good 2020 with Kevin Stefanski, but his 2023 and 2024 seasons have been the best of his career. Now, is that Kevin Stefanski's fault, or is it Baker's fault, or is it a combination? So I think it is a fair question to ask if the Browns, the idea that a quarterback, with rare exceptions, may only be as good as the guys that are coaching him or the system around him or the team around him, that doesn't give you a ton of hope for the Browns. They don't have a ton of talent on offense right now. How much faith that you have in the coach is questionable. And so, yeah, I understand that. This is not a great situation for a rookie. It's not.
It is not. It's
you
not.
got it. You got an offensive line that's old and mediocre at best. You've got no running game. You've got one wide receiver who seemed to emerge last year, at least for 5-6 weeks with Jameis Winston. The rest of the wide receiving group is nothing. You got a solid tight end in Njoku, not special, but he's solid, and that's it. So what's he coming into? I got a new OC who's never called plays before, at least in the pros. A coach that there's I think people like, but there's questions about. And so if I'm a young quarterback, it doesn't feel like this is a great situation. Now, I don't know that the Titans is a great situation either. I don't know that the Raiders or the Jets or any of those situations are any better than this one, or the Saints, or any of these teams drafting near the bottom. They're near the bottom for a reason, but especially after the whole Baker debacle. I mean, even before Baker, the Browns had a pretty bad reputation of developing talent, and now they kind of look even worse. Although Kevin Stefanski is well respected around the league, there's no doubt about it.
He is very well respected around the league, which is why a lot of what happened last year is sort of surprising. But he's gonna get another chance this year to prove a lot of people wrong,
Yep.
or a lot of people right about their thoughts about Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, that's true. And ultimately, all that matters is what Jimmy Haslam thinks about the situation.
True.
I would hope, listen, if a coach or a quarterback, if you're, good at your job or decent at your job, the more experience you're going to get, the better you're going to get. So I think most people, even the people that are the most against Stefanski, I don't think anybody would say he's a terrible coach. Now, maybe some people would. I think at the very least you'd say he's an adequate coach, I think. And so even if a guy's just a solid coach, decent coach, the longer he coaches, in theory, he should get better, especially since he's pretty young. It's not like he's losing his faculties or anything. But then the guy picking the players, I have less faith in that guy, in Andrew Berry.
I don't have a lot of faith in him. And I also don't know what his fate is. Like, is he picking a player because he's on the hot seat? Is Jimmy Haslam telling him that he can do whatever he wants, just take the best player available? Is his job secure? I don't know. And it's so interesting because in the past, Jimmy would fire people when they were not hitting on draft picks or not winning games, right? But like this whole thing with the DePodesta, never getting any sort of discipline for the team performing poorly or drafting poorly or all of these things. And maybe Barry's in that camp. Maybe Barry is in DePodesta and some of these other guys. Maybe Stefanski's in there too. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like they have to do a great job to keep their job.
Yeah. Jimmy had a quick trigger for his entire time here, and now it seems like there's no trigger at all. It's so hard to know on the outside, even for someone like you who played in the league. You're not in that building. You don't know the conversation. None of us know. Jimmy Haslam has information about Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski that we don't. They know what the interactions are like between he and them, between each other, between them and the players. And so maybe there's something we're missing. It's really hard to quantify how. Usually we just judge coaches straight by win-loss record, which makes sense, but it's not always apples to apples. I mean, if Andy Reid were the head coach of the Tennessee Titans right now, would they be the worst team in the NFL? Probably not, but they wouldn't be a playoff team. They wouldn't go to the Super Bowl. I don't care how good the coach is. You can't. There's just so much you can make up for the talent. And so maybe Jimmy's saying, maybe the reason he's being so patient here is maybe he's blaming himself, and which billionaires don't usually do. But maybe he's blaming himself for the Deshaun Watson situation. I don't know. Maybe he's saying that
would be a first. That'd be a first, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. I mean, that's the only thing that really makes sense to me right now.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is bizarre, and that's why it's so hard to say what the Browns are going to do definitively. They could do anything at the top of this draft. I just think I'd be very, very surprised, and I will stay steadfast on this take that the Browns will take a quarterback at 2 until they don't.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if they don't.
That's reasonable. Redhead Stepchild says he thinks Kevin Stefanski is above average, and he has faith in Andrew Berry. What has Andrew Berry done that we know is horrible? Well, now you could say that the Deshaun Watson trade is obviously horrible. To be fair, I think most of us, I know I certainly was 100% in favor of the trade at the time. And so I don't know how much I could kill him for that, but it's not my job or your job to get that trade right. It's his job, and obviously it's been a disaster. His 2 first-round picks that he's had, Jed Wills, who is not getting a second contract because he's a subpar player, and Greg Newsome, who I don't think is getting a second contract because he's a okay player. And he just hasn't drafted very well overall. And so I'm not going to say he's the worst GM in the league, but overall, after 5 years, in my opinion, I give him like a C minus as the GM. Whereas
C minus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say I'd probably give Kevin Stefanski a C plus, maybe even a B minus. I don't know. It's hard, though.
C minus for Stefanski, I think, is a reasonable grade.
Christopher says, would you guys trade Myles to the Pats for their first rounder, which is what, the fourth pick, fifth, something like that? Joe Milton. Everybody's obsessed with Joe Milton based on one game at the end of the year. I don't get this. And a first or second rounder next year, or is that too much of a haul? Would I trade? I don't care about Joe Milton. He's not the answer. Would I trade him to the Patriots for 2 first rounders? 100%. But the Patriots are not doing that. The Patriots are a bad team. They got a young quarterback that they believe in. He showed promise. But they have zero talent around him. The Patriots make the Browns' skill position talent look phenomenal. They have nobody. Ramondre Stevenson is their best skill position player. Solid, he's a solid running back. He's probably actually better than anybody the Browns have. But they got nobody at wide receiver. They got nothing in terms of pass catchers. Right. So when you're drafted in the top 5, you're not trading for a 29-year-old pass rusher and giving up 2 first-round picks. As great as Myles is, he's not making and he don't want. Now, he can't stop him in theory, but he doesn't want to go to the Patriots, obviously. But I can't imagine.
Right.
I don't see how any team that's drafting in the top 10 right now, like the Patriots, the Raiders, the Giants. Yeah, you'd love to trade Myles Garrett if you're going to trade him to one of those teams because they stink. But why would those teams give up 2 first-round picks for a 29-year-old when they're not contenders? I just don't see it.
It'd be like the Browns trade. It'd be like the Browns right now without in the Browns situation.
Yeah,
trading for Max Crosby. Why?
Right.
If you're not going to win right now, like you don't need a pass rusher making $200 million.
Yes, Myles Garrett. Again, you trade him to, I'll say, the worst team in a perfect world. They trade him to the worst team that is at least a borderline contender that would consider it. Maybe a team like Dallas, maybe Arizona. These teams,
the Rams,
right? Like those teams could end up not in the playoffs, but they might all think, hey, if we get Myles Garrett, we could be legit, especially in the NFC. So like a mid-tier NFC team that has convinced themselves they can win next year, that's the team you want to trade him to.
Yeah, I agree with that. In the end, I mean, they may not have a choice as to where it goes. And basically, the way this thing has played out to this point, Myles seems to be dictating a lot of this. I know the Browns are saying that they're they feel like they're in control, and maybe they are. I don't know, but Myles deserves credit because him and his team had played this out perfectly.
Yeah.
They had a game plan that they have executed, and I think they've made it very clear to everybody that they don't want to be back, and they're going to do whatever it takes to not be back. So the Browns, I think it would behoove the Browns to move on from him in whatever capacity you can, and get the most for him. Because do you really, at the end of the day, want a disgruntled top tier player in your locker room? No, because you don't want that guy to not that he would do it. I don't really know his personality, but like you don't want a guy just going through the motions. Even with elite talent, you don't need that. You need somebody who's bought in. I mean, I don't think he's going to be bought into the Cleveland Browns no matter what this year.
That's true. But things can change, pay him enough money, if they get the right quarterback. Who knows? Interesting question from the great Melenko. He says, if the Steelers would give you 3 first-round picks, would you trade Myles Garrett to them?
Say that again?
If Pittsburgh offered the Browns 3 first-round picks next 3 years, 25, 26, 27, would you trade them to Pittsburgh?
For sure.
100%.
Yeah.
Now,
Kidding me?
I'm not dying.
I don't care if Myles dominates us for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
We're probably not gonna be good in the next couple of years anyway. So we'd have their first round picks that sets us up for in the next 3 to 7 years.
Right.
So
You'd have 2 first round picks
Yeah.
for the next 3 years. Now, obviously, I guarantee you 80% of the fans would not want to do that. And ideally you'd get a better offer from somebody else. But ultimately, in some la-la land, I don't think the Steelers would spend that. They're not the team that spends that kind of money. But yes, if the Steelers made the best offer, you take the best offer. Now, if it's close, I'm going with the NFC team, and the Steelers would be, the last team you'd want to trade him to, but along with Cincinnati and Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
But if one of those teams made an offer that was head and shoulders better than anybody else, you'd have to do it. Fans would hate it, but you'd have to. But it's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So I don't think we need to worry about it. But it's a good question. But
it is a fair question.
It would be that would be hard to. It would be hard to take to see Myles Garrett in the uniform of the Steelers, especially, but any team in this division. But I don't think I can't imagine that would happen. So, although I know it was later in his career, but remember Donovan McNabb got traded within the division, although he wasn't good anymore. He wasn't very good in Washington. You remember that? Or is that too long ago?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Wasn't that long ago? Seems like it's forever ago. Nah, you were probably, I don't know. How old is Donovan McNabb? How is he around your age?
I was with McNabb. I played with him for a year.
Right, in Minnesota.
So, no. McNabb? No. Philadelphia. Who are you talking about?
Who was I thinking of that you played with in
Were you
Minnesota?
thinking about Culpepper?
Maybe I was thinking of Culpepper in Minnesota. No, but I meant Donovan McNabb. But when I said you played with him in Minnesota, I might have been thinking about Culpepper at that point. But McNabb, he played with McNabb in Philadelphia. I forgot about that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. For a year. It was the year McNabb got hurt too, by the way. He tore his ACL.
That's right.
I must have bad luck, dude, because I was in my rookie year was 2005 in Minnesota. Culpepper tore his ACL.
Yeah.
In comes Brad Johnson.
Yeah.
2006, I go to the Philadelphia Eagles. Donovan McNabb tears his ACL. In comes Jeff Garcia.
Right.
No more injuries in Buffalo, though, I don't think.
But you guys didn't have a very good quarterback.
No, but those were two, at the time, those were top 10 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you guys agree with Jason that we should trade Myles for 2026 picks instead of 2025? I mean, I think if you trade Myles, you got to get 2 first-round picks. So I'd want one in 25 and 26. Obviously, the sentiment right now seems to be that the 2026 draft is better. But I feel like every year we say next year's draft is better. Next year, you never know. Things change.
They do. They
do.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that bothers me about the whole quarterback. Like, let's just wait for Arch Manning. It's like, okay. Really? I mean, do we know? I mean, there was once a point in time where we were on the radio talking about, you know what, man? Let's just hold out for Matt Barkley next year. You remember that? It's like you just never know, dude. You never know.
That's true. Last thing, this Big Z asks, where does Aaron Rodgers land, or does he hang him up? You think Aaron? I think he's just about done. I mean, he may want to play somebody. He wasn't terrible with the Jets, but there's a lot of distraction and drama that comes with Aaron Rodgers.
I just don't know a team could deal with that. Like the Browns, I don't think they benefit from Aaron Rodgers, even though he'd give him a chance to win. But he's not going to be here for more than a year or two.
Yeah.
And he's kind of aloof, man.
Yeah.
I don't whatever you think about Rodgers as a person, I don't care. I don't care about his beliefs. I don't care about any of that. All I care about is will he be normal in the locker room and can he win and does he work hard? And those things are starting to come into question a little bit. So that's my biggest issue with him. And he's been hurt. He's 40 years old, dude. He's
41.
We were the same, dude. We're the same age. Yeah. Like we were both drafted in 2005.
Yeah.
He was pick number 20 something. I was pick number 80. Like we're the exact same years old.
Yeah.
And he's still playing quarterback and he's just tore his Achilles. Like, dude, I don't know.
I feel like some fans think that because Tom Brady was great to his mid-40s, that there's other – Tom Brady is one of one. One other quarterback, Peyton Manning, that last year in Denver, they won the Super Bowl. They carried him to that Super Bowl. I mean, he was terrible.
Don't you remember at one point during that season, his arm was looking like it was going to fall off?
Yeah.
And there was talk that they should put Brock Osweiler in.
I do remember that, yes. In fact, I think Brock Osweiler played a couple of weeks because
he did. He played late in the year because Manning was down, and then I think it was like week 16 or 17 late in the year, and they had stuff clinched up, and he played really well.
Yeah.
And there was talk like, man, maybe they should go with Brock for the playoff run. It's like, okay, let's not get a little too crazy here.
And then Brock
but that was a conversation, and we're talking about a Hall of Fame quarterback that ended up winning the Super Bowl.
Right, but it's like 40 is it. Tom Brady's the only guy that's been good past 40 at quarterback. And, Aaron Rodgers is 41. He tore his Achilles 2 years ago. He didn't look like – I'm not saying he was terrible on the field last year. He wasn't terrible, but he was kind of just average. And he's a year older. And as you said, like, we could – I know I don't particularly care for some of the things he says off the field, but that wouldn't stop me. If I thought he was a good player, I'd want him on my team. I don't ultimately care about that stuff. That has nothing to do with football. But it does seem like, does he care? I don't know if he cares anymore. And he's been questioned. The fact that he was, like, not willing to give up the Pat McAfee show, like, you're going to retire in a year or two. You could do the Pat McAfee show then. Is that more important than the team? It just seems stupid. So I want nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers personally, but I would bet that he's starting for someone next year.
If he wants to play, for sure, he'll be starting for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, he's not sticking around to carry the clipboard. No doubt. All right, thanks everybody as always for joining us. Thanks for sending your messages. We're working on some things in the future. We may try a morning show one of these days and maybe switch to 9 a.m. Send us some tweets or whatever. Let us know what you think about the idea of maybe moving to the morning. And we'll have more details for you coming down the line. We may even be doing more than one show a week at some point here.
Ooh, so, is that a tease?
That is a tease. So stick around for that. Thanks to Z and Max for producing. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. For Dustin, I'm Adam the Bull. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here? See you later from Bet Rivers.